I'm Sawyer, and you're listening to Our House, A to Z.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back to Our House.
Yes, this is the America is Still Beautiful edition.
Speaking of America and the justice system, we could know by this Friday, today, when you're listening to this, what happened with the Karen Read trial. And that's like a big deal around here. It's actually like nationwide now.
It was Somerset or Dighton?
Dighton.
Dighton.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it was actually Canton, Mass, where it happened, but her family's from Dighton.
Interesting.
So anyway, It's like a big deal. It's pretty. I mean, there are free Karen Read flags everywhere. There were the shirts. I mean, mostly on Karen. She wears the shirt every day. Just representing Karen Read.
Yeah.
Karen Eaton, I was talking about. She wears it.
Yeah. Well,
she flies the flag high.
It's kind of like a Karens Unite thing. I think all for one for all. Karens stand together.
I'm sorry. I thought this was America.
But it's a big deal. Did you listen to any of the trial?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Everybody around here is listening to the trial, watching updates on the news, everything.
Okay. Well, for our listeners who do know what's going on, what is your take?
I think she's going to get not guilty.
Not guilty?
Yeah.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts did not have enough evidence against her. It's going to be my guess.
That's fair.
They just didn't. I mean, they
fair.
tried. They had a good case, but not enough evidence.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Regardless of the outcome, did she do it? Regardless of what the court says, right? We all know our
I think some people would say she's going to get a verdict of not guilty, but that she did it. I'm going to say my gut says she didn't do it.
Really?
I don't know. I'm kind of feeling, again, I was not in the courtrooms. Do I think she's an awesome person? I don't really know her. I think there's a lot of kind of you are who your friends are situation there that makes me nervous.
Wow.
But there's a lot of
it makes
just
me
different
nervous just knowing who your friends are.
Yeah, just the environment that was there, what led to the event. Like all of that kind of stuff is like, hey, when you're in a mess of all of that, bad stuff happens.
That's true, regardless of whether or not you can be implicated in it. Yeah, no, that's fair.
And we've all found ourselves in bad situations, and I understand that.
What do you mean by that? I've never been in a bad situation.
Well, good for you. You're better than all of us.
Well, I've been trying to say that now for a few years on here. But
I think she had like some of her finer moments are all recorded. And like, I imagine what it is like. You know, there was like even an officer in the case and it's like, I mean, blasting her because they read every text message out loud.
Hey.
Like every text message you've sent in regard to it or voicemail that you left. I mean, they are playing them for everybody to hear and the whole world's watching the case. So
She's got a leaky balloon knot.
And you were making fun of her because you believed at that time that it leaked.
that's crappy. Nobody wants to be in that spot.
But hopefully that makes everybody think twice about any text message they ever send or voicemail they ever leave. Is
Literally.
That this will be played in court one day. Or this will be played in heaven one day before the Father. I just stuff like that is sobering to me.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's what we're always trying to all remind our kids of these days when there are computers that they're using, iPads, and whether it's phones or tablets or any of these things.
It's out there.
It's out there. And once it's out there, whether you delete, and I believe that they probably didn't know, the different witnesses and stuff in this trial did not know that even after a text message is deleted, it is still there.
Dang it.
It still exists. Hey. You sent it, you received it, it doesn't matter. There's still record of it.
But it makes me think, like, we're still kind of early on, maybe not early on, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years into all, like, social media being pulled into court cases. And it makes me wonder, at some point, there's, like, so much of it, and everybody is saying everything under the sun. Mm-hmm. Like, at some point, I think the tide will shift and it'll be inadmissible. Because it's like, well, I said this emotionally or whatever. It's like,
I think that's the hard thing. I mean, you watch people go completely rogue via text messaging. And I mean, look at people on the internet today. Like, how in the world?
Have to?
But honestly, how do you not hold people accountable? Like, you should be held accountable. You are an adult.
That is true, but no one is held accountable for anything. So that's why I'm like, now we're going to go pull things off social media. It's like, okay, if this is a credible thing, then it's like, well, there's a billion more. So...
Yeah. Well, this goes back to like just freedoms in general. And we have this push, like a lot of conservatives and Republicans are quote unquote freedom fighters, right? They're always like fighting for freedom of everything. Freedom of speech, freedom to bear arms, freedom, no government restrictions. However, they sing a different song when it's like, there should be restrictions on this and that and...
Speech.
Yeah, I mean, even like speech, like free speech, but not free speech when it's not people we don't like talking.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And I mean, I think that both sides of the aisle probably have their pet projects and things that they want freedom in. But it's, God bless America.
I know. I was just listening to a podcast recently. It was a Jordan Peterson podcast, and he had on the quote unquote like strictest teacher or strictest headmistress in England. And
That's what you want me to call you at home is headmistress. So that's why, that's why it just came to mind.
It's not. I was going to say headmaster, but it's headmistress.
Yeah.
She was talking about like how the whole like Western culture is all pushing for like these kid freedoms. And it's like, we want our kids to be free. They should decide what they want to be and who they want to be and what they want to do and what they want to wear and what they want to eat, you know? And she's like, and I'm going through the grocery store and it's like, what do you want for dinner? Like the mom's asking like the 5-year-olds and like, pick out what cereal you want and pick out this and all of that. And she's like, no, you don't pick out what they don't pick out what they want. You pick out what you're going to give them. That's what parents need to do. And talking about how the like freedom to like, we want our kids to have all these freedoms, but then we pick random things like, but not alcohol and not driving and not voting. Like these are things you don't get freedom to, but what you do have freedom to is a cell phone and social media and a whole bunch of like garbage and we give unrestricted access to all these things. But you're like, whoa, with cigarettes and alcohol. Like, no way, Jose.
That'll kill you.
And literally, but that's the point that she's proving. And she's talking about like how
not too much soda,
how detrimental like we allow our kids' health to get, and all like the obesity that's plaguing like the kids these days, and they're just unhealthy, and we let them do video games and watch all this garbage and be on cell phones and expose themselves emotional damage where they're all seeing counselors because they're so affected emotionally by what's going on with social media. But we hold fast to these like we pick these random things like drinking and smoking cigarettes, and you're not old enough to make these decisions, but we're going to say you're old enough to make these decisions.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like just calling parents to be like parents.
Yeah. Imagine that. Well, it does kind of lead me to, I mean, I know that headmistress is at a charter school in Great Britain or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think she's in London, but I'm not 100% sure.
I just think that it's one of those things that we pick really stupid things to fight over, and a little bit of common sense goes a long way. So this is our sort of like pre-July 4th podcast, and, you know, I'm wondering, has the State of the Union affected people's patriotism?
Surely.
Like, are people like not as eager to get out the old
red, white, and blue, Old Faithful. What is it? Old Glory.
Old Glory. Old Faithful is a fountain. It's a geyser in
definitely
Yellowstone,
a geyser.
right?
Yep.
But no, I wonder if people are affected, if they're looking around at the nation and saying, hey, yeah, I don't know if I'm proud to be an American anymore. And I want to ask you what your thoughts are on this. And for anybody that doesn't know that's listening, Ashley she did her undergrad in pre-law with the plans to be an attorney. Into law. You did your LSATs.
Yep.
You're going to go to law school and got derailed. Unfortunately, it's a really sad story where she met this guy. And it's kind of a train wreck from there. But anyway.
Zach, can you clarify that? I mean, that sounds like really terrible.
I mean, I was the guy.
You were, yeah, exactly.
I was the guy she fell in love with, and all of her legal aspirations.
All my legal aspirations.
Political goals were all shot down in flames.
No, but I was really involved for a season in government, and I really enjoyed it. I liked it.
Yeah.
You know.
But I do think that for folks who are planning a career in this, I think that you do have a different perspective on politics. I think there's a lot of armchair warrior politicians, Monday morning quarterback politicians in America, but people who are like going to school for it. What I have found is that even though these people may go on TV, may release social media podcasts with extremely persuasive and extremist like speech, I feel like they actually have a more well-rounded view. And that's something that I've always felt about you, but because I feel like I'm an extremist and you're not, and you actually went to school for this. And so I wonder what you would say to weigh in as somebody who was aspiring into a field where you can be extreme, but you have to understand both sides. It's like debate. It's like the debate team.
Yeah.
And any good politician knows both sides. And actually, there's a respect for both sides. But I wonder what you would say to folks who are wrestling with how to be a patriot, how to be an American, how to still have pride in your citizenship and your duties as a citizen, while still like disagreeing maybe with some of the stuff that's coming down.
I mean, it's sad to me. It's definitely sad to me that so many people are so like disheartened with the United States, and I think that goes worldwide. I'm not somebody who just like really laser focuses on one nation that you live in. I think no matter where you live, I think you need to know that the Lord put you there and the Lord like planted you there. And I'm like a firm believer in like praying for where you live and the nation that you live in, and know that things, they don't always go according to how we want them to go. Welcome to life, no matter where you live. But I am patriotic. I love the nation. I'm like proud of the nation regardless of decisions that have been made. Like I think about like the military and all of the sacrifices and all the different things that have gone into making this country what it is. And so I'm not going to be somebody who's going to be anti-patriot, that's for sure.
Right. No, and I think that's good, but it's interesting. So how can you still be a patriot? How can you still be proud of our nation and be able to reconcile that with the fact that, wait a minute, like we're messing some things up? And I think it's kind of like with our kids. Usually we end up going to one extreme or the other. Like we're so proud of them and so blinded to anything they could ever do wrong. And so we're like covering from them. We're making excuses for them. We're refusing to acknowledge that they're capable of mistakes or failure or whatever. Or we're swinging out the other side to where we're cutting them off and they're dead to us. And it's like, meh, that's the black sheep,
right.
And they're not invited over to the house anymore or whatever. And I feel like sometimes it's that way with the nation. It's the same way, where we're like, we're so obsessed with America that we think that America is the new Israel.
Yes.
And that is, there's a whole topic of Christian nationalism that a lot of conservatives really struggle with. Where it's like, we're the new Jerusalem, we're God's chosen people, we're whatever this and that. And I'm like,
it's so egocentric. I can't
around?
Even. But it's not even that. What if it was like unbelievable? You're still not Israel. You're still not the chosen nation. You're just not.
Right.
Like, yes, there were people who started the nation that had like great foundations or at least that's what we think. I never met any of them.
You can't say that anymore. Lori's going to make us delete that.
Fortunately, I still read cursive, so I can read a lot of the founding documents. But I get it. Like they were founded on like not wanting to be under, whatchamacallit? Oh my gosh.
Anglican rule?
The Anglican rule. Yeah.
I'm not sure
I'm trying to think of what it's called when it's a king.
So,
what's it called?
Monarchy?
The monarchy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And so I understand all that. Freedom of religion, I think that's great.
Yeah.
But the people like nowadays who can just like get off on being so like anti-America and live in America and benefit from all of the great things about America is disgusting to me.
See, I want to weigh in on that.
It's like those people, it's the victim thing. It goes back to that again. It's like people who have a job somewhere and they complain about their boss and they complain about this and they complain about their working environment, but they have no problem receiving the paycheck and cashing it every single week.
Dang. You would drop that mic, but it's attached to your stand.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I can't get past.
Right.
It's always like, I don't have enough. We don't have enough. Look what this person's doing. All of that. Well, they're human. And even if they're a president, they're going to make mistakes.
Not only are they human, but they're in authority.
Authority
of a place that you actually have an option of whether or not nobody's like tying people down to live here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Like, go live somewhere else.
Dang.
But I promise you this, if that is your attitude, you will live somewhere else and you will have just as many problems.
Yeah, you'll be just as miserable. The grass is always greener. But you know what? Either way, I would weigh more in on this, but I feel like most everything I had to say got edited out of the last podcast. So I'm just going to kind of take more of a mild, neutral type approach.
Now, here's a question. What are your thoughts on, like, do you remember Jerry Falwell and how he had the moral majority?
Yeah.
And like that whole movement, which was like pushing morale into kind of like holding on to morale.
Morality.
Holding morality in the country. What do you think about that?
It's a good question. I've heard two sides of that, and I understand them both. One side is like, yeah, that's the church doing what the church is supposed to be doing, and sort of like lobbying for like Christian ethics in in laws being passed and that sort of thing. However, there's also one perspective on it that's kind of like, no, we're not advancing the kingdom, we're advancing American Christianity. It's kind of like this idea that like the same people would argue the seven mountain mandate thing, well, politics is one of those seven mountains. And it's like, well, that's not really our responsibility. That's not part of the Great Commission, is to save the institution of America.
Right.
And so in that same vein, it's like, no, we don't really care if China takes over. We don't really care what laws come out of the White House, because that's not our supreme authority. I, for one, feel that we are charged, and this is kind of why I asked about what are our duties as citizens of the United States. I think that we're charged with anywhere we live, making that atmosphere and that environment reflect the kingdom. I think the kingdom comes through us.
That's true, but then that would say the same thing as like, okay, well, even if then just let China take over, because as long as I'm letting the kingdom come through me as an individual, then I'm doing my job.
Yeah, but the issue with the moral majority, and by the way, I say that except I'm probably more in line with Jerry Falwell than I am the other views. But I'll say the issue with it is it's backwards. Jesus didn't come to like try and change Rome from the throne down. He came and tried to change the world from the ground up. And so if you were really a good Christian and you were ministering and living your life in such a way that reflected the gospel of Jesus Christ, the church would have such an impact that it would never need to lobby for a law, because no one would want that law. It would never get voted into place because the church would just be being the church. So it's kind of like, instead of trying to create laws, you create people who follow the commands of the Lord without it being the law. Right.
But can it be both? Because like to me, I would probably err in the middle of those two things, where it's kind of like,
I think so too.
I believe that there are people that are called to be those lobbyists for laws and are called into higher government and
Then if
in
it's your
order to
calling,
change those things.
Absolutely. I think it's when the church starts to make it her like the impetus for the king, the kingdom is like, we're going to do this via law. We're going to change the world via law. It's like, no, you're actually not. Because if that was the case, then the Mosaic law would have changed the world.
Right.
But really, the Mosaic law was only halfway to Jesus, or not even halfway. He came to fulfill it. And when he fulfilled it, he came fulfilling it through, discipleship and through relationship and through, carrying out the will of the Father.
Right.
So he didn't lobby for any laws to be changed the whole time he was there. The most interaction he had with Rome was when he's on trial. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's very easy to get either one of those things out of order, priority-wise. But no, I err more on the moral majority side. Like, no, I would love to see America return to being a Christian nation. And I say that on purpose because I don't think we're a Christian nation anymore. Yeah, I think we still have freedoms.
It's just like semantics. I mean, it's like relative to whoever's saying it's big. Well, what makes a nation Christian?
Well, when it was first conceived, this idea of being a Christian nation, it was based on the founding fathers and those articles that were written and how much scriptural principle was reflected in them. And now it's like the nation's gone so far in padding itself from all of that conviction. So no, it's not really a Christian nation anymore.
That's what's always so funny to me, is like the picking and choosing of like what you do. Like, why still hold your hand on the Bible when you swear in? Like, I don't understand that. Like, why are you swearing on the Bible? Like, you don't actually believe it. Or like, it's very interesting.
The same reason the Pharisees did all that stuff, because there were parts about it that made them feel safe. It's like customary. There's things that we can say, you swore on a Bible. Well, what does that even mean? You can't quote one scripture in that Bible.
I know, it's so interesting to me. Speaking of, tomorrow night, there's a presidential debate. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
The very first presidential debate.
Are you talking about tomorrow night, like from when this is released?
Sorry, no, it would have been last night.
Oh, okay.
Yep, Thursday night.
Interesting.
No audience, no notes.
Is it going to be televised?
This is CNN.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, this should be interesting.
Are you going to watch it?
So it's the 4th and it's an election year. This is going to be exciting. It's going to be a good one.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't feel as excited. I used to love a a good presidential year.
I know you were big on that.
Yep.
Yeah, but it kind of lost its.
I mean, I did all the phone calls. I did the canvassing
did you
neighborhoods. Yeah, I did all of that. And
Now, do you feel like it changed who anybody was going to vote for?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I think some of it's like awareness. You know what I mean? Just.
I'm going to say if you were.
I think what's sad is the majority of people are actually not aware of what a candidate actually stands for anymore. It's literally like what we've seen on social media, the bad things about a person or seemingly good things about a person. But I would venture to guess that the majority of voters, and I could be wrong, but I really don't think I am, have never even like looked at the like different items and what they stand for as a president.
Oh no, yeah, you're.
Do you know what I mean?
100% right. 100%.
It's like we see Republican or we see Democrat or we just see like those people, these are the kind of people that like Joe Biden. These are the kind of people that like Trump. And that's how I'm going to decide.
Yeah.
Or I've heard these bad things about Trump.
They must be true.
They must be true. Or I've heard these terrible things about Joe Biden. These must be true.
They have to be true.
Because I saw it on somebody's social media post.
Yeah.
So that's all just garbage to me. So I hate the foolishness.
Yeah.
Like it's stupid, and you want to call yourself a citizen and you want to go vote and have your say, but it's not based on anything.
Well, I think it used to be that people were more aware of what was happening on a global level and on a 100,000-foot view, and now it's like everyone is obsessed with their pet project. They're their pet soapbox. So whatever that is, if it's save the trees, if it's save the whales, if it's save the Jews, if it's save the you name it, that's going to be the mountain I die on. So now what does that president have to say about that one thing, and that's who I'm voting for, instead of a comprehensive understanding of what are the global implications. What if this person is elected? What's the country going to look like in 4 years?
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. I think that's a huge part of it. But
nobody's thinking that anymore.
Right.
They're thinking, is Palestine going to be freed if this person, it's like that's as far as I'm going is the one thing I'm going to live and die for. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you were standing on my front porch in that outfit, I wouldn't care who you were canvassing for, I'd vote for him. If your hair was crimped like that with those highlights in it, I'd be like, and the sun-kissed cheeks. Oh, beautiful. I'd be like, all right, like you tell me.
I don't think you were ever living around D.C. around those times.
Nope, I never lived in D.C. No, but I'm just saying, if I had been, you would have swayed me. You would have persuaded me. So there's a lot of power that you carry, young lady, so be careful.
Wait till I try to persuade you with this presidential election.
Oh, Jesus, help us. Okay, so with that said, I'm still proud to be an American.
I mean, I'm looking at a gigantic flag in our office.
There's a big flag in our office. There's also a billboard-sized flag outside our house, and another huge flag.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's good. I think we got to remember where we live.
Now, you've always loved the American flag. Do you love it just for the color palette? Because I feel like you just love red, white, and blue.
I think I love red, white, and blue because I love the flag, because I do love America.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it went in that order. I do get it. I get it.
Have you ever sung the national anthem publicly?
Yes.
Have you ever sung I'm Proud to Be an American publicly?
Where at least I know I'm free.
Yeah.
And I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me.
And I'd gladly stand up
next to her and defend her till today. This day.
Dinner still today.
Still today.
Because there ain't no doubt.
I love this land. God bless the USA. All right, folks, on that.
Well, you've done it now.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Now you've spoken it publicly.
Spoken word. Ray Charles said it best in his America the Beautiful, and I think that would be an appropriate outro for today instead of our classic Our House, because really, America is our house. This is where we raise our kids. This is where we work. This is where we play, and every time I've ever left the country, I won't name any places, but every time I've ever left the country, I can't wait to get back. And that's regardless of who the president is. You know, I can't wait to get back. I feel like God will continue to use this country in spite of herself. I think that the best thing we can do is...
I know, but don't you feel like even in saying that, God will continue to use this country? Is God using all the other countries too?
Yeah.
Do you think everybody, no matter what nation they live in, can say God will use this country?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. I hope that's your thought on it.
Why wouldn't? Yeah.
Because I just don't like it. I don't like when people are like, God likes America better than other countries, and he's going to use it. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah. No, I don't think he likes us better than other countries.
Okay.
I do think that we can position ourselves in his favor if we do what he asks us to do.
Yes.
I think we can pray for Israel and stop electing leaders that do not support Israel. I think we can begin to defend the institution of marriage.
Now, here's the deal
instead of
with the Israel
destroy
thing,
it,
and this is going to
decimate the fabric of
This
it.
could bring us on a really much longer podcast. I think a lot of people are sick of hearing people say, like, defend Israel. God loves Israel. Like, I think people are a little bit sick of hearing that and not hearing, like, any backing to that. And
What
it
do you
just
mean?
feels like, because it feels like so many uber conservative Christians are defend Israel and who the heck cares about Palestine?
Right.
And like, well, that's God's heart. And it's like, that's not God's heart. God's heart is not Israel and who the heck cares about Palestine
Okay.
or Palestinian people. So what would you say to that? Because I grew up knowing that, like, knowing everything that has been prophesied about Israel and the Lord's heart for protecting the Jewish people. But now Jewish people are everywhere. And protecting Israel to me doesn't mean that Israel's not at fault or doing anything wrong. And I think that there's like this thought that Israel is making all the right decisions and doing all the right thing, and they're all people that are protected, and like whatever they do to any other nation is just okay because it's Israel.
Yeah. But have you followed, like, the war there and, like, the attacks and the aggressors?
I have.
And
Have you?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
But regardless of that, I feel like, to me, you can look at history. And
just to clarify, and I also watched like the Ukraine and Russia and all of that, and the aggressors and like the wrongdoings and all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I'm not disagreeing that there are wrongdoings.
Yeah.
Like, I know that that's true. I think it's just like
Listen, I'm with you. I've always struggled with, like, wait a minute, but God, Israel they're the ones that are still denying that Jesus is the Messiah. Like,
Right.
where does that fit in? But it's like it's understanding the heart of God and the picture that He wants played out. Go back 8,000 years or whatever, 6,000, depending on your history of the earth theory. Any time people have stood with Israel, they're blessed. They're better off. Those you bless are blessed, and those you curse are cursed. This was God's promise to Israel. And so I think that, yes, we can talk about, like, the faith piece versus the political piece and everything else. When our nation was backing Israel, we were blessed. When our nation has begun to falter in that, everything else has followed and has come up shaken. And I think that no matter how you cut it, we can never begin to reason with the sovereignty of God or why He says what He says and why He calls for what He calls for. But I can tell you that this is just the pattern of history, not just with us. Look at other nations, the history of the world in people coming up and back against Israel, the ones who've defended and the ones who've been aggressors. And that's just how it is.
I agree. I think just right now, the culture has turned to very empathetic, and for
empathetic to every,
just in general is empathetic. So you're kind of like looking around. It's kind of like why you're always like looking to the underdog and worrying about who's a victim. You know what I mean? Like who needs to be defended and all of that. And there's like a lot of like scripture to back that up and like who we defend and protect. But like, how do you do both? And I think that this is the struggle, not for me personally, but where I see the struggle and I can empathize with that struggle, where it's like you're seeing people hurt and you're seeing like literal victims of war.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And it's terrible. And so when you see like such a strong, like, hoorah, defend Israel, it feels like I think people are taking it so harshly, like you don't see all the people that are being harmed. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. But this
But like,
isn't-
how do we
this
fight
isn't-
against this?
because
How do we go
isn't
against
really
this as a
about-
church?
This isn't really about all the people being harmed. It's about principle. It's about principle. We already said people are being harmed on both sides. Both sides are making mistakes. Both sides are acting out, or both sides are whatever,
It's war. It's
initiating conflict or whatever. Like who jumps off first. But it's on principle, and I think that has to weigh in with us. It has to affect how we approach it, because the victim thing, it's like addressing things symptomatically.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, well, if we just were all following Scripture, if we were all following God's heart, there wouldn't be victims in this.
Right. I know. I look at, obviously, like the Old Testament is just riddled with war and battles and war and battles
And more
and
war.
murder, war.
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting because as Christians, we look now and we like read these Bible passages and we're like, and they came in and they conquered this nation. And it's just like, yay, Jehovah. Like, we've conquered this nation. And like, nobody now bats an eye at any of that stuff, but all of that was happening. And like, where would we be? I don't know. Like, I'm trying to like self-reflect and be like, okay, if I was there as I am now, like, would it be, what about all those like people? And it's so hard, but like the Lord was like accomplishing his will through even like the terrible stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you less of a Christian to still feel and like understand the pain of other people,
Right.
but the highest priority be the Lord's will being accomplished. And I think about even that in our own lives and how we have to like watch really hard things happen and go through loss and painful things and say, all right, Lord, like whatever, if it's for your glory.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And knowing that it was never like God's original will or intent.
Right.
And that's what's hard. Every like bad thing is because of sin. Mm-hmm. There was no like nation warring against nation in the original blueprints for the Garden of Eden. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But sin was introduced and everything broken came as a result. But now the Lord is doing with the broken what is necessary in order to piece things back together again. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it just seems like such a struggle right now for the church to, and I think what I want, like a place I want to be in is where it's like, I can love those in front of me, like love those in my like surroundings, like the people around me, the people the Lord puts in my like circle of influence, to love well. And at the same time, like, because I have to fight against the thing to like not feel the empathy for the entire world. And every time there's like something bad that happens. And I think a lot of Christians are in that predicament where we really need to like fight back against that because one, we weren't ever created to like know it all and be able and like have to feel all of those feelings.
I don't have those issues at all, but
I know, but I
also
think a
don't have
lot of
social
people
media.
do. I think a lot of people do. And it's not, I mean, regardless, like you're a pastor of people with social media. So you have to be able to like speak to the fact that a lot of people are taking on the burdens of the world. Mm-hmm. And how do we protect ourselves from doing that? Because we need to stay focused on what the Lord's called us to. And we have to stay focused on being able to love the people around us. And I think a lot of times we're not able to do the simplest things because we're so overwhelmed or preoccupied with things that we can't actually like fix or change. And I can't imagine that that's like the Lord's call on us as believers to be too preoccupied with pain around the world. Doesn't mean you don't pray for it. No, of course not. But to be so emotionally invested in things that we can't actually do anything about, but there's stuff right in front of us we can and we don't.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So be careful what you do with your freedom. Be careful what you do. Be careful what you access, what you open yourself up to, and what you take on as a burden. And let the Lord, let the Holy Spirit like lead the convictions that we have, the support that we give, the not just the people that we vote for, but the principles of why. I think I receive the challenge to get off the couple of soapboxes I stand on and to try and understand through other people's eyes. Because at least what that gives us is an education. At least you may still vote for all the same people that you would vote for, but you may do so with a little less extremism.
Exactly.
And I think that's what that's where the church needs to be. Is nobody's asking, I'm not saying like, oh, we should all change who we're voting for. We should just have a little bit better understanding and a little less ignorance around, oh, this person will fix everything. It's like, no, there's just a different set of problems.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
Anyway.
With
that, God bless America. Hey.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Far heroes proved.
Am I in danger?
In liberating strife. Who more than self their country loved. And mercy more than life. America, America, make God thy gold refined, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. And you know, when I was in school, we used to sing it something like this. Listen here. Oh, beautiful, far spacious skies, far amber waves of grain, far purple mountain majesties, above the fruited plain. But now wait a minute, I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee. He crowned thy good. Yes, he did. Heavy brotherhood from sea to shining sea. You know, I wish I had somebody to help me sing this.